Pearl Hart was not like other women of her time. As a petite and attractive young girl, Pearl would become one of the only female stagecoach robbers in the American West and a celebrity in her own right. Born as Pearl Taylor of French descent, Canada, she was one of several children brought up in a respectable middle-class family and received a good education. But at the age of 17, she fell for a swaggering and seductive gambler named Frederick Hart, and Pearl eloped with him. Pearl soon found her husband not only a gambler, but also a poor provider, a heavy drinker, and often abusive to her. Inspired by Annie Oakley and the heroes and legends of the Wild West, Pearl soon left her shiftless husband. In the following years, Pearl left her husband and reconciled several times. In 1899, she received a letter from her brother that her mother was ill and needed money for medical bills. Pearl and her partner Joe Boot pulled off an infamous stagecoach robbery near Globe, Arizona. She disguised as a man, and they robbed $450 and a revolver. But after 3 days wandering the desert, they were caught. After her arrest, she became a media sensation, giving interviews and posing for photographs that turned her into a quasi-celebrity. Her final words to the court: "I shall not consent to be tried under a law in which my sex had no voice in the making." Though she admitted her guilt, the jury still acquitted her. Her partner Joe Boot, 30 years for his part in the stage robbery. Laura Bullion, the Thorny Rose, was a key member of Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch. Laura was born in Knickerbocker, Texas, a haven of outlaws. Laura's father was a bank robber, so it was no surprise that the young girl followed a life of crime. At 15, Bullion left home and took up a job as a prostitute in the brothel of Madame Fanny Porter, where she met Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Soon she began a romance with Ben Kilpatrick. This relationship eventually led Laura to the Wild Bunch. When Ben Kilpatrick joined the Wild Bunch in 1898, they moved to the gang's hideout in Wyoming. Though Laura was in a relationship with Kilpatrick, it became quickly apparent that she was a masterful outlaw in her own right. She was a great disguiser. She helped the gang sell stolen goods, forge signatures, and gather supplies, and was known to the group as Della Rose, and often called the Rose of the Wild Bunch. Having taken part in several train robberies with the Wild Bunch, Kilpatrick and Bullion fled to St. Louis, Missouri, where they were arrested in 1901. Kilpatrick was found guilty of robbery and sentenced to 15 years in prison, while Laura was sentenced to 5. Known as the Bandit Queen, Belle Starr was one of the most notorious female outlaws of the Wild West. Born Myra Maybelle Shirley in 1848, she lived a life of a spoiled rich girl. However, her life changed dramatically when her older brother was killed during the Kansas-Missouri Border War in 1864. Soon, the family moved to Syene, Texas, where Myra met the James Younger gang, who occasionally sought refuge at the Shirley house. Myra became a member of their gang and later married Jim Reed, one of the outlaw band. When Reed was killed in 1874, Belle left her children with her mother while she rode the outlaw trail. In 1880, she married Sam Starr and settled in the Indian Territory. The bandit couple formed a gang around themselves and began a life of rustling, horse stealing, and trafficking whiskey to Indians. In 1886, they were again arrested for robbery and horse stealing. By this time, Belle had become a celebrity. Richard Fox's Police Gazette had turned her into a Western folk hero, a female Robin Hood, and a Jesse James. She was dubbed the Bandit Queen. In 1889, Belle met her end when shot in the back while fleeing ambush, a killing that remains unsolved, adding to her mystique as a true Wild West icon. Rose Elizabeth Dunn, also known as the Rose of Cimarron, was best known for her romantic involvement with outlaw George Bitter Creek Newcomb. She was born on September 5, 1878. 2 of her older brothers had become minor outlaws by the time she was 12. She learned to ride, rope, and shoot from her brothers. Because she could ride a horse better than most men and loved riding her horse across the sandbars of the Cimarron River, she was dubbed the Rose of Cimarron. When she was 14, she met George Bitter Creek Newcomb through her brothers and fell for him. In the 1893 Battle of Ingalls, Dunn risked her life running through the raining bullets in order to deliver a Winchester rifle to her wounded lover. By May 1895, Newcomb had a $5,000 reward on his head, and when he and Charlie Pierce stopped to see Rose, her outlaw brothers turned them in for the reward, and Newcomb was shot and killed by lawmen. Though never convicted of crimes, her loyalty to outlaws made her a romanticized figure in Western ballads. Ethel Etta Place, also known as Outlaw Queen, perhaps one of the most mysterious female outlaws. Despite extensive research, historians have never conclusively identified who she really was, making her one of the most intriguing figures of the Wild West. Her life is shrouded in mystery and intrigue, largely due to her association with Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch. Rumors swirled that she worked as a teacher or a prostitute, but one thing was sure: she was the Sundance Kid's devoted companion, and some historical reports state she was the gang's lookout during the heists while holding the getaway horses. For a while, she lived on a ranch in Argentina with Butch and Sundance, traveled to Europe, and visited family in the U.S. before the trio became restless and resumed a life of crime throughout South America. Etta's death is as mysterious as her birth, but certainly not lacking in guess. From a dramatic end in Bolivia's final shootout, to living out her life alone in San Francisco, to faking her death and marrying a wealthy rancher in Paraguay, we'll never know. Big Nose Kate, born Mary Catherine Horney, is best known as the longtime companion of Doc Holliday. Though her life was not defined solely by criminal acts, she was an integral part of the rough and tumble lifestyle of frontier outlaws. Kate was a well-educated Hungarian immigrant, but she chose to work as a prostitute. In 1877, Kate met Doc Holliday. Their fateful meeting sparked an intense, unpredictable relationship fueled by passion and rebellion. The two fought regularly and sometimes violently, but soon made up after fights. When Doc was arrested after a violent dispute during a poker game, Kate took a daring act by igniting a nearby shed to distract a lynch mob and breaking into the jail to rescue him. Kate's life was marked by hardships and heartbreak, yet she remained resilient amid the constant turbulence of gunfights, gambling halls, and shifting alliances. Ann Bassett was a prominent rancher in Browns Hole, Colorado, who, along with her sister Josie, was an associate of outlaws, particularly Butch Cassidy and the Wild Bunch. Ann was born on May 12, 1878, in the rugged expanse of Browns Hole, Colorado, the first white girl born in that wild, lawless territory. Growing up amidst a haven for cattle rustlers, horse thieves, and infamous outlaws, she learned to ride, rope, and shoot from her father, Herb Bassett, whose business dealings included notorious figures like Butch Cassidy, Kid Curry, and Black Jack Ketchum. By her teenage years, Ann's striking looks, sharp wit, and fearless nature had captured the attention of the Wild Bunch. At just 15, she began a notorious romance with Butch Cassidy. As the daughter of ranchers embroiled in bitter feuds with powerful cattle barons, Ann played a key role in a feud against the Two Bar Ranch, earning the moniker Queen of the Rustlers for her daring cattle rustling exploits. Eleanor Dumont, famously known as Madame Mustache, was one of America's first professional blackjack dealers who left an indelible mark on the mining camps of the Wild West for over 3 decades. Born in 1829 in New Orleans, she ventured west during the California Gold Rush and arrived in San Francisco in 1849. As a petite, elegant French woman, she quickly garnered attention at the Bella Union Casino with her dignified presence and adept handling of the 21 game, despite suspicions of card sharpening that eventually led to her departure. In 1854, she made a striking entrance in Nevada City, California, where 2 miners helped her with her luggage as she registered under the name Eleanor Dumont. She soon announced the opening of her upscale gambling hall on Broad Street, inviting well-dressed patrons with free champagne and the promise of a fair, exciting game. Later, partnering with New York gambler David Tobin, she expanded her enterprise into Dumont's Palace, offering games like Faro and Chuck-a-Luck. Despite setbacks, including a notorious conman who swindled her and the eventual decline of the mining boom, Eleanor's resilient spirit and legendary charm continued to define her colorful career until her tragic end in Bodie in 1879. Sally Skull roamed the Texas frontier as one of its most elusive and daring characters. Clad in rugged attire with a signature skull emblem that earned her lasting notoriety, she was a force to be reckoned with in an era when the West was lawless and wild. According to local lore, Sally Skull emerged from humble beginnings in a rough border town, quickly earning a reputation for her fearless spirit and razor-sharp wit. She was known to ride hard across barren landscapes, outsmarting both outlaws and lawmen with her audacious stunts and cunning maneuvers. Legends tell of her swift draw in tense duels and of close escapes from relentless posses determined to bring her in. Her exploits, whether involving stagecoach robberies or cattle rustling, resonated deeply with frontier settlers, who saw in her a living symbol of defiance against the oppressive order of the time. Sally Skull's life was a vivid tapestry of danger and daring, a true embodiment of the untamed, independent spirit that defined the American West. Although Bonnie Parker is more closely associated with the Depression-era outlaw duo Bonnie and Clyde, her place in American criminal folklore is indisputable. Born in Rowena, Texas, Bonnie emerged from modest beginnings to become one of the most notorious outlaws in American history. She was born into a humble family and experienced a difficult early life that would eventually shape her rebellious spirit. Bonnie's life took a dramatic turn after she met Clyde Barrow, and together they became the infamous duo behind a series of daring bank robberies and shootouts during the Great Depression. Her quick temper, determination, and willingness to defy authority quickly made her a central figure in the Barrow Gang's exploits. The entry details how her criminal career, though brief, left an indelible mark on American culture, transforming her into a symbol of both defiance and tragic romance. Over time, the legend of Bonnie Parker has been mythologized, blending fact with folklore, and her image continues to captivate historians and the public alike.